Lovely. So let's just make a start. Stand comfortably as good as you can, not bothered particularly about wet posture or anything to start off with. And just simple start, bit of self massage technique, rubbing your hands together, making your hands a little bit warmed up, and then the pads of your fingers, tapping gently over your face, nice and loosen your jaw, muscles of your cheeks, and up over your head and neck. One shoulder and your arm. And the other side. And then onto your back with one or with both hands, very lightly, covering as much of your back as you can comfortably get to. And turn around your hips. Down the outside of your legs, not front, inside. And then once again, nice and light on your belly. Then the upper part. Then feet hip width apart. So spinning in parallel lines running through your body, feet to hips to shoulders. Helps also imagining a parallel line down the center of your body. And that image works for you, just starting to turn around that line. So turning from your hips, your waist. Your body settle into the movement. Your attention settle into your body, following the movement, reflecting on your posture. Letting your breathing come wherever's comfortable, no breathing pattern or method. Just aware of your body breathing. Starting to gently refine your posture. Familiar with the side sheet postures, you're probably finding yourself just slipping in to it. You're fairly new to this. Any changes should be made very gently with a kind of long-term view. But ideally, what you want to have, come forwards a bit so you can still see my feet, is to have your weight forwards, more of your weight in the front half of your feet, and at the same time just allowing gravity to draw your hips down so you remain upright. This is a posture that almost instantly allows you to drop your weight, to root down a little bit. Again, thinking of that center line of the body, imagine your pelvis sort of hanging from that. So your legs supporting your upper body. As you come more into line with the pull of gravity, that becomes more apparent, definitely. Want to feel that your back supports the front of your body, so try not to pull your belly in, tightening your chest. Rather, slight feeling of the front of your body, particularly your rib cage, hanging slightly. And again, as you get more used to this posture, have some increase in awareness of the support that comes from within your body, skeleton and the surrounding area. The combination spreading the effort required to maintain an upright posture and to move with, just allowing a little bit more space within the body. As you lose some of the tightness, some of the stiffness, that opens up the inner landscape of the body, movement, whether that movement be the mechanical movements of you know, your exercises, turning in your hips, filling your arms, swing around, and so on. Or metabolic movements like breathing, circulation. All this slightly deeper sense of a fluid movement working through the whole body, letting the body resonate to the rhythm of your movements. This brings us close to a sense of what we might think of as the energy of the body. Really, the distinction between those three is a little bit blurred. They certainly overlap. And one of the sort of outcomes that we're looking for is that these parts of the body that feel a bit separate, whether that be sort of a sense that your shoulders are somehow not connected to your hips, or whether it be these different sort of like aspects of movement and flow within the body, or whether it be the apparent distinction between our body and the physical qualities of the postures and movements, our awareness, our minds, tensions, and movement itself, and body, mind, and energy, all beginning to harmonize, so that we move from a kind of slightly more fragmented feeling to something that's much more gathered and collected. These are all qualities that are cultivated. They don't instantly appear. They develop for us through the sessions, and they develop over a period of time. When you start off, you're not necessarily just going to slip into everything correctly. You just have time, be a little bit patient. Try and have a sense of observing what's going on within your body. On the one hand, we have the sense of what's happening right now, and some kind of aspiration, some kind of goal as to where we would like to be. Just recognize that the movement from one to another will always take a little bit of time and should never be forced. Now, turning your hands, palm out, raising your arms up a little bit. Try not to stiffen up in your shoulders. If you do find that you've done that, maybe bring your arms in and down a little. Feel what's happening in your back and your sides. Your hands. Then on forwards. Same idea, but this time with your feet in a slightly different position. More of a sense of using the ground. But to begin with, just think of it as a gentle push from one foot to another. But again, as you get more used to these movements, the term pushing ceases to be appropriate as we begin to appreciate the sort of springiness in our legs. It's less a case of having to push, more to do with actually giving yourself a chance to settle in each leg. Imagine you're doing this on a trampoline or a bouncy castle, just dropping down and feeling yourself being pushed rather than having to push. And on the other side, it's not that pushing yourself is wrong. No, no one way of describing these movements, no one image, no one view is ever going to be complete. And this is important to realize that these are experiential movements. We use ideas and models, we use phrases, we use images to try and highlight certain aspects of the whole exercise, the postures, but they're never going to be complete in themselves. Give your legs a shake. So coming back to the parallel stance and just trying to get a feeling of allowing tightness, the stiffness around the center part of your body, especially lower back and hips, to release a little bit. If you that feeling of releasing, if you imagine, if you hold your arm out, clench your fist a bit closer, really tight, you can feel the tension going up your arm. We don't want to just let the fist drop. We want to keep the structure, but we want it more open. So if you look there, then I can just open up the fingers a little bit. There's a little space now within the fisted hand, and the transition from this tight grip to the more open grip is the feeling that you're looking for, as I said, in hips, belly, lower back, so that there's a gradual sense of just dropping inwards and downwards and letting your hips drop back a little bit, knees will bend a little bit more, and then pushing up again, beginning to feel that sense of a push up, a rising energy from the ground, sinking down again, and getting the feeling of your center of gravity beginning to drop. You want to try and have an image, an idea that our center of gravity is an actual thing. I sometimes imagine it's something like a ball bearing, for instance, that I want to drop through the ground. And then as I push up, I'm not lifting the ball bearing up, trying to get my body to grow out of that area, just like a plant might grow out of its seed. So your body begins to expand and then contract, trying to feel that working not just in your legs, which is where you'll probably feel it straight away, but feeling the push up into your back and almost a kind of lengthening in your back and an expansion outwards. And then down, and then bringing your hands around so you're cradling the ball. And as you push up and you get that expansion, let that just push your elbows out. Turn your hands over, let your hips drop back and settle. Rooting down. The body expands. And we want this too to settle into a nice steady rhythm. Once again, it may take a while for that to develop. But again, especially people less familiar with these movements, it's a strong movement in your legs, working the muscles of your legs, and they may start to just sort of rebel a little bit, to shake, to stiffen up. Remember that feeling of releasing. It's one of the ongoing qualities, intentions that we want to try and cultivate. But again, gently and over a period of time, giving your body time to condition is important. We don't always recognize, I think, the degree to which Tai Chi, like any physical activity, requires very specific conditioning at times. Pace of the movement, the rhythm of the movement comes from your feet and your hips. Shoulders and your arms following that. Just be aware of the tendency that our arms have to lead the movement. Our attention comes more into the upper part of our body. And If not every time, at least some of the time that you sink down, try and make a point of following that movement down, becoming a little bit more aware of your feet, your legs, your knees. Variant on this, turning your hands out, fingers pointing away from the shoulders, the wild goose. Here we find a slightly different type of image, not a more of aesthetic quality. And again, remember, no one image is ever complete. Imagine what it would be like to sort of wave a feather up and down in the air, that slight sense of resistance, but not a resistance that causes you to strain. And of course, the Tai Chi and Qigong, the classic image for that would be, so you're moving through water. And that encourages this feeling of releasing that I described, not just in your hips, but through the whole of your body, in the soft tissues and the joints. Once again, this leads us to a sense of our whole body gaze. Means that it's not just the big muscles of your body involved in the movements, tendons, ligaments, skeletal muscle, fascia, all have a role to play here. And then your hands drop down, cross onto your belly, pushing up again, your elbows, drawing your fingers around, this time in a smooth circle. So those tendons and ligaments and the skeletal muscle, they too need time to condition. But the overall effect, as before, is to spread the effort and the benefits of the movement through more of your body, the whole body, again, beginning to move as one harmonious unit. It's part of the plan. One more time. And then as you sink down this time, focusing on one side of your body, again, your elbow being pushed up, and this time drawing your fingers up, wind your arm around until you're plucking something off a tree. Dragon plucks the stars. Change sides. And try not to rush the change over, bring your attention to the middle of your body, then to the opposite side, then push up, feeling the extension right up through your body, as though you're stretching out a big elastic band, and then just allowing it to contract slowly. You may find that your breathing has quite naturally harmonized with the movement. That can mean that as your body expands, that tends to be when you breathe in, but you may find it slightly different. And it's important that that isn't forced or contrived. You should never do is artificially slow your breathing down or hold the breath. One more time. And then just stand for a moment in this higher position, slightly forwards, hips dropping back, slight curve in this. And then just give your legs some. So those four movements all use a very obvious, clear movement in your hips. The hips drop back and down, and then they get pushed up. That movement pushes up into our shoulders and our upper body. We can begin to feel those very clear connections from feet up to our hips, from our hips to our shoulders, beginning to develop this sense of our whole body moving as one gathered unit, as I described before. The next two exercises, we're looking for that same quality. It's a little bit more subtle in the sense that we're not actually physically going up and down. There is a slight drop down. And this slight dropping down, if we go back to that image of moving through water, if you're in water and you manage to just allow yourself to drop down a little bit, you drop down a certain amount and then you feel the buoyancy of the water holding you up. And in the same way, when we drop down just a little, we feel that sort of rising movement. And in that top position, you could argue that we're actually holding those two energies very neutrally. So the downward movement, the yielding to the pull of gravity, and the upward movement, the response from our feet and our legs and from the ground are balanced, are harmonious, neutralizing each other. But there is still movement within the body, and we're going to make use of that movement. So coming back into the posture, bring your hands lightly touching the sides of your body. So just try and have your hands lightly, or the inside of your hand or your arm lightly touching your hip, so that your attention is very much brought to this central area of the body. And then from there, picking up on that upward movement, pushing up a little bit, hands a little bit above your head, in your back length, and then slowly down, taking time just to bring your attention and your hands back to the center. Then again, and this time pushing out. And try and make sure that your hands stay in front of your body. There can be a tendency to want to sort of pull the hands back. So keep them just a little bit in front. Remembering that your back supports the front of your body, and just becoming aware of the subtle patterns of movement in your back, a lengthening, though somebody will massage your back up its length. And then some sideways expansion and contraction. There's somebody will massage and sideways. We could make use of that image of moving through water. But another image that is quite good for this one that we used a few moments ago, maybe, is to imagine that between your hands, you've got a large elastic band, and once again, pushing it out and letting it contract slowly. And the advantage of that particular image is that elasticity is the tonal quality of the soft tissue that we're looking to cultivate. This time, as you push out, you turn just a little bit. That changes the direction of your arms. And then back. You're not twisting your back around. You're not twisting your shoulders around. You turn. Your hands are still pushing straight out from your shoulders. But your upper body's turning. So beginning to feel how that central part of the body directs the direction of the movement. So the center takes on several areas of significance. It's that central part of the body. Remember the pelvis that we want to drop towards the ground. When we turn in the center, we change the direction of our eyes. When the center has that sense of resting on the ground, it becomes, in a way, the center of the expansion and contraction. The ball expanding, pushing out and up and down, and then drawing back in. So it becomes the sort of start and finish point for the movement. And it becomes a focal point for our attention. We return our attention to the center. And from there, as we push out, so does our awareness extend outwards. We're coming back to settle. We begin to associate the middle part of the body and its connection to the ground as a sort of place of rest, a place of stillness with the mind. It's pushing in four directions. One more round. Aware of any areas that feel a bit stiff, tight, unresponsive. Trying to apply that image of releasing, of ungripping. Using your imagination, how would it feel? That area we're able to ungrip. Letting your hands drop down. And then, again, expanding from the center, one arm pushed out, fingers gently pulled back. You're just letting your arm swing up until it's in line with your nose, and then straight down this center line of your body. Back down. Pushing out again. And giving yourself time just to complete the movement. Let your arm come all the way down, feel the weight of your arm hanging from the shoulder, and then feel the push out. Again, a return of your attention to the center part of your body and the ground. And then this time, when the hand gets up, turn in a little. The hand come down, turn back. So again, not hurrying the movement. Turning around that center line of your body. Moving as far as is comfortable, with the intention to retain the space within the body. So you always feel you could have moved a little bit further to encourage this flow of the energy and other movements. Change sides. Notice any difference between one side of your body and the other. You have an opportunity every time your hand drops down just to re-engage with an awareness of your posture, with the intention to stand in this very gathered way. Notice there can be a tendency to want to rush on at that point. And add a new turn. This is called circling paths. But sometimes the images associated with the names of the movements are a bit abstract. Other times they can be quite descriptive, as they have been for this exercise and the previous one. And once again, stand. So we begin to identify, in a sense, a physical location for our attention to just settle. This is described in Tai Chi as cultivating stillness within the movement. And once again, we have two things that could be seen as being opposite, but actually blend with each other and support each other, reinforce each other. The center part of your body is described sometimes as being like the hub of a wheel. Think of a bicycle wheel that's held in the frame, held still in the frame, and it's that very action of locking the hub into the frame that allows the wheel to spin freely. So this is not either or, but recognize that we do often have a tendency in that last exercise, we might find ourselves doing this and just sort of coming back and starting the next one. Feel as though we don't have time to give, but actually it only takes a split second. So we actively try and cultivate this stillness within the movement. And remember, we're having an effect on nervous system as well as on muscle and tendon and ligament. So it's one of those qualities that we grow. So still with that strong attention, that sense of being very centered in your attention, centered in the body. Now just push your hips back a little bit so your pelvis tilts, and then soften your knees and let gravity pull your hips down, and feel how that brings the pelvis in the center back to the again. So your hips go back, your head and shoulders go forwards. So don't bend your back, but tilt your upper body. Feel again that gentle extension through your back and the spine. Go very carefully. You don't have to go a long way. It could just be a very small movement, because again, it takes time for your back to condition for this to become comfortable. There's nothing gained in tightening to get a bigger movement. And quite often in Tai Chi, it's the smaller movements that are the most revealing. This time, as your hips go back, drop down just a little bit. And your knees will bend a little bit more, not too much. And then your hips drop back and push up. Expanding, contracting. Noticing how allowing gravity to work on your hips, draw your hips down, actually helps you bring yourself up, bring your head and shoulders up into the upright position with less strain. Helping you to retain the openness of the posture, and then this time, as you push up, the expansion, pushing your arms out, and the tilting of your pelvis, your hips going back, rolling in forwards. This is called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. So that extension in your back and spine now, moving out through your arms and your fingers. Notice my elbows still bent. Going to 80% of the full movement to ensure that the furthest extent there is still space. This helps the sense of harmony. We're not having to strain, and all the movements that I described earlier, whether mechanical or metabolic or energetic, like water, will just naturally begin to flow more freely, more harmoniously as we develop. Rowing a boat, middle of the lake. One more of these. This time, as you come to the upright position, hands just resting in front of your belly, palm down, turn. Then you push the hips back to then send the hands forwards, swing across, moving your hips across, come back to the upright position, turn back to the turn the other way. This is called polishing the table. Draw your arms around in a nice smooth movement. In the back, you can see more clearly my hips are doing, hopefully. And go back, down, dropping down. I'm exaggerating the movements a little bit, so hopefully you can see what's going on. Move as far as you're comfortable moving. This is not a competition. And particularly those of you who have some experience in this, you may find that you have an idea that you can move a certain distance, a certain range, and then find that actually you can't. Maybe you're a bit stiff for some reason today. There could be all sorts of reasons. So make sure continue to listen to your body, to stay with your attention very much gathered, embodied. One more in each direction. And then letting your hips drop back, feeling your head floating up, let your hands drop to the side. So again, we can begin to really appreciate the significance of the center of the body. It becomes almost like the control room, the telephone exchange, if you like, of the body. Our attention goes into there, it can ground, it can settle, it can look out from there. And our intentionality is sort of spread through the body from the center. And in particular, those last two exercises illustrated something I think is really important about the Tai Chi posture, which is that we don't strain to hold ourselves upright. We don't get into a fight with this overwhelming force of gravity, but rather we let gravity pull our hips down. And just when I push my elbow down, my hand comes up. And in the same way, when we allow our hips to drop, then we begin to get a sense of our shoulders and our heads coming up nice and smoothly, nice and clean. So we begin to find a way to stand with less strain. Remember, I said earlier about noticing how we're supported. And so there's a growing sense that rather than having to stiffen up, to strain, we can develop this sort of spaciousness within the body, this elasticity of tone, and begin to move with that more consistently. As you stand, imagine parallel lines going through the floor, tram line forward going through your feet, across the floor. Turn one foot out, step forwards with the other foot, toes pointing, front toes pointing forwards, and still with that space between your legs, still hip width, about the same in length, and begin to once again transfer your weight forwards and forwards. So it's not too long a stance. When you go forwards, you're going to get about 60% of your weight in the front foot. A little bit more when you go back, maybe up to 70. Remember the idea I presented earlier, doing something like this on a trampoline, a bouncy castle. Actually, what you're trying to do is to let yourself settle and then to feel the push. And instead of the push pushing us up, which is what it would be inclined to do, first of all, you actually direct it forward. So the energy comes from, say, from your front foot up through the center and then down. And then back the other way. So it will move you. You'll feel it in your upper body as well. But for the moment, just focus on what's happening between the feet and the hips. So once again, that quality of stillness within the movement, the willingness just to rest for a split second. It really doesn't take that long. But so often we find ourselves in a rush. But when we can just take that moment, we realise it's an essential part. So the return for just taking that extra moment to settle is this sense of the energy of the movement arising from the ground. When you go into your front foot this time, push the back knee forwards. Your hip will drop a little bit more, but more importantly, your heel will come up. That means more of your weight will go into this foot. When you go back, again, drop the hip and raise your toes. So now, gradually, we're beginning to get more of the weight going into our feet, and our upper body is becoming more in line with one leg. And so gradually, we feel a sense of stability on one leg, and that allows us to take a slow step. You bring foot in, you push out as though you're standing in water. Push the foot out and put your heel down. Lower the ball of your foot. Be slightly turned out. Gently press your foot into the floor and then let your weight drop. Back foot in, go back, go out. Ball of the foot goes down, then the heel, then you press in, you plant the foot. Giving yourself that moment just to find your root, your alignment, your stability over one leg. Now try that on the other side. So go back to the parallel stance. Imagine the parallel lines. And again, people with more experience, it can be very tempting to think, oh, it's this exercise, I know this. Do you? Do we really know this? And quite often a moment just to reflect on something that it's probably a daily activity for us. So just standing, so, oh, there's something going on there. There's often new things to discover. So this time have your other foot forwards. Some of you will have heard me say before, I started Tai Chi in 1983. This was the third exercise that I ever did. And yet I still feel that I'm developing it. I'm still learning new things about it. Remember, just a moment to settle. And that settling, again, remembering that releasing feeling, trying to encourage that, trying to intend that in your hip, your knee, your ankle. It may be that your knee will bend a bit more, but that's not necessary as long as your knees aren't tight to begin with. And it's important to realize that bending of the knees, sometimes we do go into deeper postures in Tai Chi, without a doubt. But it isn't necessarily the case that it's better to bend your knees more, because that can put a strain on your knees. So finding a level that works. And then once again, just beginning to move a little bit more, your heel coming up, toes coming up. Remember, a key factor in aligning your body is going to be to allow your hips to drop back. We found that in a couple of the previous exercises. So constantly trying to yield. We don't want to strain in any way. We don't want to strain for the movements. We don't want to strain to be upright. When we move as though we're moving through water, and that encourages a softer quality, a more yielding quality overall. And then Bring your foot in, step out. Just the front foot, your heel, then the ball of your foot, then the palm. So this yielding quality, this releasing quality, in the Chinese term of song, is fundamental to Tai Chi. We begin to feel it as the flavor of the movement, as the flavor of the flow of energies. It's the quality that really gives us this sense of inner movement, inner flow and harmony. Now take a few steps through, either forwards or backwards. Remember, as though you're moving in water, trying to make sure that you place and plant your foot before you commit your weight. So almost like you're walking on thin ice. And then changing direction. Okay, have your right foot forward. So mirror my movements. Start with your weight back, hold your hands over your belly. Push forwards, feel that movement now coming more into the upper part of your body, pushing your elbows forwards, drawing your hands apart, just opening up the chest. This is pigeon spreads its wings, and then back. And here, again, don't put your hands behind your shoulders, but it is a very expansive movement. Expanding in belly, expanding in solar plexus, expanding in chest. And if it suits you to consciously bring your breathing in, one suggestion would be every now and then, not necessarily every time, but in this position, just see how it feels to take a gentle in-breath. That expansion, the front of the body, the spine will gradually mean that the in-breath becomes much more full. Breathing out whenever your body's wanting to breathe. Building on that movement in the legs, not losing the awareness of that moment of settling down, that stillness within the movement. This time from the back leg, your hands drop all the way down, feel the weight of your arms, push forwards, and as you settle in the front foot, the arms swing. Going back, drawing your arms behind you, and then as you settle in this. Again, as though you're moving through water. This is called fisherman casting. Moving through water, moving like water. It can feel like a big wave flowing from your back foot through your body out through your fingers and then the front foot. Both these movements, pigeon spreads its wings, fisherman cast the net, are very literally straightforward. You're looking ahead. Your weight's moving forwards and backwards. Your arms moving forwards and backwards. It's a simple formula. The movement is rooted in your feet, transmitted through your legs, guided through the center of the body, expressed in your upper body. We're going to change that just a little bit. As your hands start to swing up, turn. Turn to your left, that redirect your arms again. Coming back, letting your hands drop, feeling your upper body contract. Then as you settle into your back foot, turn to your right. Let that movement push your arms up, turning in the center, directing your hands. This is the movement wind blows the winds. Again, rooted in your feet. Transmitted through your legs. Shaped, guided, directed through that center part of your body, that point of stillness. Expressed with the patterns of expansion and contraction flowing through your body. The pace, the rhythm comes from the ground through your feet and your legs, not in a hurry to move your arms. And then we should always be aware of a natural tendency we have for our attention to be more in the upper part of our body than the lower part of our body. So those moments again when we settle our weight into one foot, when we bring our attention back to our center, back to the ground, and reset that each time. So now have your left foot forwards, move your weight into your back foot, fold your hands over your belly. And again, pigeon spreads its wings, expanding the belly, solar plexus, chest, and then back. You may notice as your hands come back and fold over your belly, there's a very subtle expansion across your back. So you feel that pattern of expansion, contraction, moving between the front and back. And in between, it's as though that movement was very gently just massaging the internal organs and tissues, helping with that feeling of releasing, encouraging the movement. And again, we may find that we can bring our attention and our intention to particular parts of the body. Pigeon spreads its wings. This time, arms dropping down, don't rush. Fisherman casting. I'm not trying to lift my arms. There's a natural curve. What we might find is that as our arms swing up, either behind or in front, we become aware of small changes, again, patterns of expansion and contraction, the upper part of our body. And as we develop in these exercises and we're more skilled at bringing a sense of intentionality to the movements, we can focus on those movements with a view to extending them, to expanding them, and letting them move our arms a little bit further forward, if that is wish. It's done not by straining, but through this blending, this harmonization of body, mind, and energy. Coming into the front foot, turning to your right, doing the expansion up into your solar plexus, sides of your body perhaps. Lifting your shoulders, straining in your elbows. Wind blows the winds. The willow tree with its deep roots, supple wood. This time, when you come into the front foot, push your back knee forwards, bring the foot in, step back and plant the foot, coming back, turning, raise your toes. But then you may find the turning helps you with the step, planting. Maybe able to just raise your leg a little. Don't do that if it makes you feel terribly unsteady. May get the odd little wobble. Remember, allow your center of gravity to sink, allow your hips to drop. This is where we get the stability from. It's dragonfly skills to work. Apply that with the right foot forwards. You don't have to raise the leg. Could just do this at the start, which is keep the toes down, spine. In my experience, however we do these movements, there's often something new and interesting for us to discover. So even people with more experience, even if you feel quite confident about raising your legs, sometimes do this. That different perspective can be very illuminating. Dragonfly skims the water, and then again, either forwards or backwards, depending on where you have room. Stepping through. And then this time, changing direction if you haven't done so already. And so as I described, we gradually become aware of small changes within the body, and these become the primary focus of attention. It's not that we're not concerned with the outside, but these are the building blocks of the bigger movements, more likely to respond to our intentionality. So it isn't always the case. It isn't necessarily the case that we value bigger movements over smaller movements. Sometimes this as a posture can be more interesting than that. You can find things out. So they say sometimes in Tai Chi that as you get better at Tai Chi, more experience, you move less. But it's referring to the fact that the movements become more kind of subtle, more a result of integration of mind, body, and energy. Now, coming back to parallel stance, the final exercise brings us back to this releasing, centering quality, sinking down, and then pushing up, squid embrace tiger, return to mountain, bringing your hands around as though you're going to hold a ball here, drawing in, letting your hips drop, shoulders follow, arms follow, and then we just kind of beginning to settle down. And just take a moment and then push up again and try and have a sense of what for you brings you back to the mountain, brings you back to this calmer, more grounded, more aligned, more open posture. What would you like to take away from the session with you to be put to use later in the day? cultivating that sense of stillness within the movement, finding the thing that actually helps you to access that. One more time. And lovely. Thank you very much for watching and joining in, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.